house, same bat time, same bat channel. And yes, I'm here with all the old fashioned decollage. That's what happens when you are staying in the house of someone who's over 80 years old. This is not my decorations, not my things. These are not my books. Most people know from now uh, who've been watching my stuff for a long time. I'm not religious, so these are not my Bibles. I mean, come on, it's like five of them back there. But I want to jump straight into the current topics, okay? So, first of all, I want to thank my regulars who always come by. I appreciate them a lot. I was going to do an interview today, but my friend wasn't able to do it at the time. I'm trying to get Krista May to come back because now she's not shy anymore, so she wants to do it. And of course, she hopes that the the super thanks that I get from folks will be will pop off when she's here as well, so that I can give that to her to help her out with her family needs. Um, what's up, Miss Nita? So uh, yesterday I wanted to talk about what are some common myths and try to debunk them for folks, but it took a left turn, and I spent a overwhelming amount of time handling trolls. Um, so if you guys have any political myths, we can handle those. The troll stream, right? It was just all trolls last night, Miss Nita. I might think about that, renaming it. But so yeah, if you guys have political myths, we can talk about that today. But today's topic is actually what do you consider the most important issue for you and whom you're deciding to vote for this current election, or maybe you're not voting at all because you don't feel anyone is covering the topics that you care about. Um, I don't know what's the most important issue for me, but there are several. So currently, it's the immigration crisis going on at the border. That's a huge thing. Not to mention giving illegal migrants a bunch of cash benefits and housing denied to the very people living in those same communities where they're pushing those immigrants. That is problematic. And of course, economic issues. Macedo says, well, from here, I say country security or safety regarding immigration and also affordable food prices and housing. Yeah, absolutely. Pe- we're dealing with issues. They're not pushing the economic issue because they want to keep selling us on how good the economy has gotten. But we're dealing with an issue that has been as bad as the 1920s economic depression. And a lot of people see it, and I think the current administration is trying to gaslight the general population and not thinking that the economy isn't as bad as it is. And it definitely is. What's up, Leanne? How are you? You say you have the same problems there, Miss Needle. By the way, what part of Germany are you in? You don't live in Frankfurt, right? But yeah, so immigration is a huge issue. Economy, um, national security, because right now the current administration has us mixed up in three proxy wars: the thing between Ukraine and Russia, Israel, and it's not really Israel versus Palestine. Palestine. It's like Israel versus all its neighbors now, like Hezbollah and Lebanon, Iran, which has been Iran, which has been kind of been like the Palpatine behind all this shenanigans for years. Um, and then we have the third proxy war with China, especially in their ambitions to unify. I'll just say in a diplomatic way, their efforts to unify with Taiwan. So you see, I'm not in Frankfurt. No, okay. South Pepper Mount area says hello. What's up, Pepper? And by the way, guys, Miss Needle has some awesome like she treats me like I'm the big person. She's actually I'm a bigger fan of hers. Like she has a whole bunch of stuff on her channel, guys. You should check it out. She and I actually might have some stuff where we collaborate pretty soon. So we'll see about that. I don't want to say too much right now, but because that's a topic for another day. But she and I might do some collaboration. She is a very talented musician. You should check out the stuff on her channel. Um, and an artist, so you might want to check that stuff out she has, guys. Don't make me blush. No, seriously, like when I saw some of your videos, Miss Needle, like I was like, hold up. I was like, these look like straight up like these look like music videos I used to watch on MTV like back in the 90s when they still like played like real music videos all day long. And I was like, yo, these are high quality. So I don't know how you know who you had helping you do all that stuff, but that's some good stuff. I'm telling you. But yeah, guys, definitely check her stuff out. And hopefully, when this goes up on replay, people will hear me say this as well. But in any case, guys, yeah. So we get a lot of political contentious views here on the stream. So I'm willing to hear them all. Like some people are for Kamala, some people are for Trump, some people don't want either of them. Some people have voiced um, views towards RFK Jr. Some and a lot of folks have forgotten about all those other third party candidates who are currently out there right now. As far as I know, Cornell West is still in the running. I think he still is. Um, Jill Stein for the Green Party, she's still in there. The Libertarian Party candidate, he's still there. And there's a bunch of others. The other ones, to be honest, don't really matter. But the ones whom do matter, I think, would be like Cornell West, who's running as an independent now. Um, who I think the Reform Party doesn't have a candidate now. Cornell West originally was going to be the candidate for the Reform Party, but they're dealing with some political. Well, they're dealing with some internal corruption and some other issues. So I don't think they have a candidate in this race. But again, in the Libertarian Party, I don't know who the candidate they've chosen, but they have someone running for them if you're a Libertarian, and Jill Stein is running again for the Green Party. I once favored her like maybe like 20 years ago when she first ran. I think it was like 20 years ago, 20 to 16 years ago, whenever. But the more I found out about her, the more I found out she's sort of a nut. So I wouldn't vote for Jill Stein, but she is available for those who are. Oh, Miss Neal says, I do it all myself, no help. Wow. Okay. So you and I are going to talk off camera because you have some awesome video editing skills. Because, like I said, that stuff looks like MTV quality music videos. Give me a second, guys. All right. So she says, and Pepper, thank you. That's very kind. Robert Connor says, "What's your favorite weapon that Batman uses?" My favorite is his gauntlets. We're not talking about Batman, but you know that I'm a huge Batman fan, so I will answer that. Matter of fact, I'm gonna do better than answer that. How about this, Robert? If I answer your question, if you haven't liked and subscribed, I want you to like and subscribe and share this video. Okay? Cool. Bet we got a deal there. So my favorite Batman weapon is a weapon that also have myself. Believe it or not. Uh-oh, what's that? Dun, dun, dun. The Batarang, particularly the mini Batarangs that he can use as a shuriken, as a throwing star, shurikens. But I also have the bigger one, pause, that the Michael Keaton version that was made by NECA Toys. This one was made by, I'm not sure, but I started seeing this in the comic book convention places around like uh, 11 years ago. So I bought them then, as well as a double bladed Batman knife. I don't have it here, it's at my other place. But yes, batarangs are my favorite Batman weapon. My second favorite will be his grapnel. I'm going to get that too through the at least the NECA toy version. The NECA toys makes everything based off the Tim Burton Batman franchise. So I probably when I get that, I'm gonna get the whole utility belt as well. They made an entire utility belt that's actually functional through NEC, and it's made by NECA Toys. Trust me, when I get that, I'm going to show it on this channel to all of you. But anyway, that I promise you that. So, like I said, do me a deal. So, like and subscribe and share this video, please. Thanks. Um, Sean says 5 day no coca. What's up, yo guys? Sean has been clean for 5 days. Give it up for him. He came on this channel a week ago and was talking about he wanted to get clean. This man has been clean for 5 days, guys. Let's show him some love. That's what's up, Sean. Keep it going, my friend. Like I said, hit the gym because it's going to beat that urge every time, my man. I'm probably going later tonight myself. And Miss Nita says, Chat already wildin'. I swear you're from here. This is why I didn't originally know you were in Germany because you talk like someone from here. But I guess a lot of people in Germany, have our use our lingo. But Pepper says, "Oh wow, yes, he sure did. I tend to forget Batman had weapons. How do you forget Batman has weapons? That's his most. I mean, his most not. I think that's one of his most noticeable things is that he carries a barrage of pocket-size weapons with him that seem to be more miniature than um, what most people have for EDC weapons. Now, I think on a tactical side, there are some people in special operations that may have things that are close to what Batman has, but probably not exactly. But oh, Robert says I normally subscribe. I hit the bell notification. Thank you, thank you. Um, yeah, guys, give it up for Sean, man. He's been clean for 5 days. That's what's up. Like to change a habit like that is very difficult. So just living it day by day he, he's doing very well. Um, Sean says it's always darkest before the dawn. You told me, mate. That stuck back. That stuck back running, going to gyms. As I said, subscriber for life. Thank you. I appreciate it. Telling the wifey that I'm live streaming because she's talking my head off. Give me a second. Um, Miss Needle says every clear-minded day you make better decisions for the rest of your life. Addiction keeps you chained in a prison you hold the key to. True. And that can happen for other things besides substance abuses, guys. Like um, porn, food, sex. And maybe these things aren't strictly addictions. They may be compulsions, behavioral compulsions, but they, they are very similar in terms to substance abuse. Pepper says, "Don't laugh at me. I watch Batman, but not really watch Batman." I don't know what you mean, but I would say this: if you haven't read any of his comic books, is a good time. I can tell you specific books to start off with to to get you into it, right? So, Batman Year One is good. Okay. Uh, Return of the Dark Knight, The Long Halloween, um, Batman Year Zero, Court of the Owls, The Killing Joke, and Death in the Family. You can start with those. Miss Nita says, "Yeah, Sean, keep on going, making progress. Freaking happy for you." Sean says, "Thank you all for the love." Um, Bill saying, "Hello, Pepper." Miss Nita says, "Sean, you're welcome. Man, rooting for you. We all been rooting for you. Haha, if you know the meme with Tyra Banks." How you even know the Tyra Banks? See, that's what I'm saying. You're very Americanized. So, sorry, I'm doing multiple things at once, guys, but my attention is still on this live stream here. Um, Sean says sleep cycle is still effed up. Gonna go read some Batman. Yeah, so that wasn't just for Robert. That's for any of you guys. If you want to get into Batman from the beginning, like you so instead of starting off with like the stuff that was written back in 1939, like detective. I mean, you can read those too, but I think the essence of Batman happened in the '80s, not the golden age era of comics in the '30s and '40s. So you can read that too. But his first appearance was in Detective Comic number 27, May 1939. And you can find a facsimile reprint of that, so you don't have to look for the original issue, which would be worth about $2 million if someone had an original printing of that. Um, and then there's Batman number one, which debuted in May 1940, which gave like his backstory and all that sort of stuff. Back then, Batman was much different. He actually killed people, and he used a gun. He was like super violent. He even in the first appearance of Robin, Robin was killing too. I'm like, damn, Robin killing, like. But anyway, don't go to those first. Like, if you first want to talk, like, if you first want to get enmeshed in Batman, guys, go to first Batman Year One, okay, and then Batman: The Long Halloween, which is sort of like the unofficial sequel to Batman Year One, because there was a Batman Year Two actually written by Todd McFarlane, but most people don't like it, and it's never been considered like the it's never been considered like a real sequel to Batman Year One. Most people consider like Batman: The Long Halloween sort of like the sequel to Batman Year One. Okay, so The Long Halloween, and then go back and read Return of the Dark Knight. This was like one of the very first graphic novels to ever hit up. Like, um, yeah, back in 1985, this is like one of the first graphic novels. So read Return to the Dark Knight, which is very good. You'll see you'll see how it influenced movies like um, The Dark Knight Rises and influenced Batman versus Superman. Read that, then read The Killing Joke, which is about the Joker when he crippled Barbara Gordon. Spoiler alert. And Death in the Family when the Joker killed the second Robin. Those are all good. Um, and then I can recommend others too, but those will be your good starter ones. Oh, and Batman. Oh, and then the other ones I would throw in there is Batman Year Zero, which is another reimagining of his beginnings, similar to Batman Year One, but in a different way. And Court of the Owls. Pepper says I might have to start reading on Batman. I was so into Spider Man, my Wonder Woman, of course, and all the Avengers. You can enjoy all of them. I'm also into like Wolverine, Spider Man, Daredevil. Um, yeah. Pepper says, you know what I remember the most about Batman? The villains. Batman has some of the best villains. Yeah, I think most people will vote. I think when most people vote Batman as having the best rogues gallery of all the superheroes. Spider Man has a good rogues gallery too, but I think Batman has the best. Bonnie says, "Hello, everyone. What's up, Bonnie?" So this topic might be up your avenue, Bonnie, because we're talking about what is the most important political issues right now for people going into this current election. Like, what is driving you to the polls this November? What is there a hot button issue for you, or is it a bunch of different issues right now? Trying to do things on two phones at the same time. But like I said, for me, one of the issues is immigration because I think it's been handled very poorly by this current administration. Not only allowing these people to come here illegally, like it was so bad. They were showing on 20, and when I'm talking about the current immigration crisis, I'm not necessarily, even though we're talking about at the Mexican border, I'm not actually talking about the Mexicans. They're not the main problem coming across this border. So, for instance, we have people coming into the border from China who are getting like um, people assisting them. And I mean, when I say assisting them, they had people having Ubers waiting for them once they crossed the border, and Border Patrol was told to not touch them. Yeah, Chinese buying farmland is a huge. Well, that's the Chinese government. That's a whole other issue. That's definitely problematic because we're definitely not allowed to buy farmland and homes in their country, so they should not be able to buy agricultural property here. But yeah, it was on 2020. Like these people were just literally just going into this man's property and was on the phone, like, "Hey, yeah, what's up? I'm here. Let me get the," and just pulling off in an Uber. I'm like, wow. And Border Patrol was literally just sitting there watching. Like this was on 2020, so it's not like this is any sort of like um like hysterical whatever. Like this was just being clearly documented on the news. And then, like I said, we got these people being bused to like black communities all across the country, places like Chicago, New York, um, and other places, and they're given subsidies to be here illegally. I'm like, wait, what? Like they didn't go through any normal refugee process or the current immigration process, which is a very long and stilted process to be sure, but it encourages people to come here the wrong way because of that. Um, and I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of you are aware of the fact that there was an immigrant who left like a receipt and was showing how much money they had on their freaking EBT. EBT is like food stamps, right? On their EBT, like the person had like what was it like 13,000 in food supplement and like about 5,000 in cash. I'm like, wow. Meanwhile, like my old my old aunties and stuff like that are only getting like $45 a month. Like they expect people to live off of like $45 a month, but they're giving these undocumented immigrants thousands of dollars. Because this was just one person. Imagine how many people are receiving that amount of subsidies on the EBT and they're not even legal. How do they even get an EBT card and they're not even legal? Meanwhile, people here who are poor are being denied EBT benefits. So to me, that is a huge problem. Bonnie says my main concern are our families and being able to provide for them. Exactly, and that's crazy. Bonnie is like, so these people are getting all these benefits. Meanwhile, hardworking Americans are just left assed out in the cold. Right? It's become more expensive just to have take care of your basic needs. And the current administration wants to gaslight us and tell us how good the economy is going. For whom? Yeah, I'm sure the economy is going well for people who make over 250,000 a year, but for the average person, no, that's not the case. Sneeble says a big issue is both sides want to dumb down our education. If you look at it, both sides want to select what we do and don't teach, and it's based on their views, not thinking objectively. That's a good point. Terrace says, "How you doing?" I'm doing well, Terrace. Sean says, "Opinion on Kamala Harris claiming black ancestry when previous claiming Indian ancestry." Oh, I'm about to go in on this question. You, I've answered this before, but I'll definitely have no problem answering this again. And apologies to anyone this offends. So, first of all, it is 2024, and most smart black people are not going to vote for someone strictly based on racial solidarity. We did that with Obama, and we got nothing out of it. He did nothing for black people while he was in office. He steadfastly proclaimed that he is not the president for black people. He's the president for the American people. And but however, whenever he needed more political capital, he would go off to the black communities, particularly the black churches, looking for that support. So, and Obama wasn't black. I'm gonna say it. Com, he and Kamala are tethers. What are tethers? Tethers are black immigrants. Well, immigrant immigrants from places with people of African ancestry who then come to America and they only call themselves black when it's politically expedient for them to do so or when they get into trouble. This lady was not bringing up her black identity until she ran for office, until she ran for presidential office. Until then, she was known as they called her the first Indian senator, the first Indian attorney general in California, and then she was a state's attorney in the Oakland Bay Area, and a, most of the black people from the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area hate her because of her cruel policies towards black people back then. They said they would never vote for her as president. And again, even if I was to vote out of racial solidarity, which I never would do because that's not rational. But even if I did, she's not black. She's she's East Indian and Jamaican. I love Jamaicans. I grew up around Jamaicans in Baltimore when I was a kid in a Jamaican community. My nanny was Jamaican, and this is why I love Jamaican food to this day because she fed me that when I was a little kid. But a lot of them don't consider themselves black. Like they were like, no, I'm not black American. I'm Jamaican. I don't have a problem with it, but let's not then say now she's black. She's not. She did not. And when I say black, I'm talking about foundational black American. Foundational black Americans are black people who came to this country prior to 1860. People who came here after 1860 are black immigrants. They are not from either Africa, the Caribbean, or Latin America. They're not black Americans. They don't share our culture as American descendants of slavery. So she's not black. So even if I were to ever vote out of racial solidarity, I would never vote for her because she's simply not black. And again, I'm not going to vote out of racial solidarity because I don't believe in symbolic victories. I want like if I want to see the black community prosper, I'm gonna vote for people who have our best interests at heart, not just voting for someone just because they look like me. That's irrational. Guess who does actually have some interests and align with mine? Trump does. So that's where I'm voting. Again, I'm not telling people whom to vote for and why they should vote and what issues should be the most important to them. I'm saying that's what's most important to me and that I would never vote out of racial solidarity. I think that's patently irrational. Sorry for the long tirade, but I definitely want. I knew that question was coming, so I wanted to answer it. Pepper says exactly. My sister could only get $29 in food stamps a month on disability, and she worked most of her life put into the system. Exactly. I think one of my older cousins, she's more like an aunt to me, but she's actually a cousin. Like I think hers went down to like 29 or something like that, something similar to your sister. I was like, yo, that's ridiculous. Like $29. Meanwhile, an illegal immigrant has like $13,000 in food benefits, not to mention $5,000 in cash on their EBT card. For what? Like, what are they buying for 13,000 a month? Bonnie says it broke my heart. My father thought Obama was hope and change, only to realize he was the same old same old. Exactly, Bonnie. Like he. So back then, I consider myself politically progressive, and I still have those leanings today, but I'm more conservative in a lot of my views. However, I was excited when he first ran for office because he marketed himself as a true progressive, but it was all it was all smoke and mirrors. Like once he came into office, he was just another neoliberal, and unfortunately, we had neoliberals on both sides of the spectrum for like the last 40 years. No, I would say for like the last 50 years, we've had nothing but neoliberal um, presidents and senators and congressional representatives. Sean says, my opinion on Harris claiming Trump targets LGBTQ and criticizing him for removing legislation regarding LGBTQ workers, etc. Oh, opinion. Sorry. My opinion on Harris claiming Trump targets the LGBTQ community and criticizing him for removing legislation regarding LGBTQ workers. That one is an issue to which that I'm not too knowledgeable on, to be honest. So I don't want to make up a, anything and act like I have a strong opinion on it when I'm not too well informed about that. My thing is, I have nothing wrong with that community, but they're not a they're not an ethnic minority. They're more for more or less they've chosen the lifestyles that they've chosen. It's not like you're be careful how I say it. It's not it's not like they're a racial ethnic group, right? But they like to play that sort of victimhood game as if they are an ethnic minority and they're not. Meanwhile, Harris has nothing to say about black people, but was quick. She and Biden were quick, very quick, to to give to sign off on an anti-Asian um, racism um, crime bill. Black people asked for the very same thing back in 2020. Told us, hey, we're not we're not doing stuff just for black people, but they did that just for the Asian community, and they were getting their butts beat for just 1 year, as opposed to hundreds of years. So I don't take her seriously when I don't take her seriously on her positions on uh, other disenfranchised groups because the group that has been getting kicked in the butt the most, well, one of the groups that's been getting kicked in the butt the most, she's done nothing for. I'll tell you this: the if pe- if people wanted to play, let's so if we want to play the victim Olympics, you know who have it the worst here in this country, um, the Native American indigenous people and people who have disabilities. Those are the two groups that have it the hardest in this country. Not the LGBTQIA XYZ P2 001245678910 group. Like no, they don't have it. They don't have it that hard. Matter of fact, they have it so well now that you can lose your job if you say something against them. So how is it hard for them in this country when you have to walk on pins and needles to make sure that you don't say anything that can offend them. Like it's so bad now. You have job applications and college and school applications that ask you what are your pronouns in school and in on college campuses now. They make sure that you use the proper pronouns to refer to these different folks, or you can face academic problems. But yet they're being discriminated against. They have the most problems in this country. Please, I, I sorry, I can't take them seriously. It's like some serious Orwellian stuff going on with them. Sean says, yeah, I just heard her say that in a recent speech. Mm. He said, what did Trump do to them? I wonder. Nothing really, other than he said he had an issue with them in the military. That's the only thing I knew. I was familiar with him talking about the LGBTQ when he was talking about transgenders in the military. That's the only thing I remember him saying. So Mercanoid Peanut Butter says, I will say it's definitely much more acceptable to be prejudiced or hateful to the disabled than probably any other minority. Exactly. And like I said, also Native Americans, like they people forget them. Like they have it so hard on those reservations, right? Those reservations are like third world countries within the US. And on top of that, they have very little legal protection on these reservations. And good luck trying to figure out who actually has the jurisdiction to 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 prosecute a crime against someone victimizing them, because you have the local native so you have the local native police, like say like on the Lakota reservation or a Navajo reservation, you'll have the local Navajo or the local Lakota police. But the thing is, they can only handle misdemeanors. Anything above a misdemeanor, felony is automatically kicked up to the federal level. So then they have to let those people go and let the federal law enforcement handle it. That's if they choose to. If not, they have to let them go. And then it's going to be it's a quagmire between which federal law enforcement handles it. It could be FBI. It could be the Federal Bureau of uh, what do they call it? The land, whatever the land something something. Well, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Um, they have their own law enforcement. It's federal, and they are part of the Department of um, I forgot the Department of Land something or other. Someone can probably remind me, or it might be taken up by the state police, whatever. But what happens is a lot of folks will come onto these reservations and get into fights, might beat up or even murder a native, or RAPE, a native woman, and they get away with it because they can't be processed by Indian police because they because they're not a citizen. They're not a member of their reservation. It happens a lot. So you want to talk about disenfranchised groups, the, the the disabled the disabled people in America and the natives. Bonnie says, in all honesty, I'm okay in the fact that I never went to college. Nowadays, with me, the funny, so kind of the same, but not exactly. So I did go to college, obviously, right? But the thing is, I'm glad that I left undergrad 20 years ago. Like I've been out of undergraduate school since 20 years ago. Then, around 2006, I started graduate. Like I never finished. The first time I was just like auditing some graduate courses while working on my third major. And then I came back to school about like 8 years later and started a master's that I haven't finished because of financial issues. But on a graduate school level, it was different because I wasn't, it wasn't. I guess you're not being like babysat like you are in undergrad. I would not want to be an undergrad today. Like to have to do all the stuff they have to do is, yeah. I'm glad I took it back in the 2000s. Miss Nia said you probably dodged a bullet, Bonnie. Chica says Homeland Security. I don't think Homeland. Well, they might Chica, but I don't think it's Homeland Security that is on the reservations. It's they might be though. You might be right, but I'm talking about the the department under which the Bureau of Indian Affairs is. It's not Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security. It's the Department of uh, I, oh, it's the Department of the Interior. That's what it's called. Another thing about the Department of the Interior and the Bureau of Indian Affairs that some people don't know, there are special mortgage programs just for natives, which is one of the better things, one of the better benefits that they receive. But yeah, the Department of the Interior is it doesn't sound very important, but you gotta think most of the country is most of America is like flyover country territory, like the places no one really goes to: Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa. Did I say Idaho? You know, Colorado, Utah, all these places like New Mexico, Arizona, like all these places, like this is a huge area the Department of the Interior covers. And like I said, Bureau of Indian Affairs is under them. And the way they've treated natives has been problematic for a long time. Bonnie says my grandma was Ojibwa. Oh, I didn't know that Ojibwa. Okay, I hope I said that pronounced it correctly. I don't know if it's Ojibwa or Ojibwe. Like he said, but Bonnie says it wasn't easy for my mom or us dealing with her trauma. Uh, Chica says, "LOL, I was just guessing you mentioned land, so it was the first thing that popped up." Yeah, the Department of the Interior. I just had to remember. Um, but yeah, the economy is screwed up, and they're giving all these benefits to illegal immigrants. To me, that's an, that's insulting to hardworking Americans. And then the people who actually do need a hand up, not a hand out, but a hand up. People who need a hand up to do better are being denied it. So to me, that's one of the most important issues. Um, and before Kamala had replaced Biden, it was also an important issue that we had a president who was not suffering from dementia, which Biden obviously is, and they hid that from us for 4 years, and it was only coming out of conservative news outlets that this man is suffering a cognitive decline, whereas the other side tried to deny this and gaslight us, saying that we were just being conspiracy theorists and nuts and all that sort of stuff when we were talking about his cognitive decline, until it was hard to deny because he was in a live debate with Trump, falling asleep and barely able to talk above a whisper. Like you could see his cognitive decline from the years when he was a VP for Obama, when he was still, you know, feisty and cantankerous, and now where he can barely move around, and it's like it's that's an issue. So that's been, I mean, that has been solved by them replacing him with Kamala on the ticket. But then they created a whole new problem, which is they just effed over the entire Democratic electorate de- um, by denying them the opportunity to actually have a primary to pick whom they wanted to replace Biden. So I don't want I don't want the Democrats in office, because for as much as they try to preach that the Republicans embrace the fringe aspects of the far right and the fascism and all that sort of stuff, they are willing to do a lot of things that are anti-democratic themselves. So that's another huge issue for me, guys. Um, Mercanoy says, I wonder how in Canada the reservations um, cooperate with law. Um, my cousin is my cousin is the leader of a tribe in Canada. I never met him, but he would send me packages when I was a child. Oh, that's cool. And up there, I know they don't like being called well, they're Canadians, but they don't refer to themselves as Native Canadians or no, I'm sorry, they wouldn't want to be called Indians. Like here, natives here actually prefer being called American Indians, but up there, I know in Canada they do not like that. They'd rather be called indigenous or native peoples. Um, so I have to be mindful of that when I'm referring to the indigenous people in Canada because like they do not like being called Indian. That's to them a slur. But here is actually what they prefer being called American Indians. So Angel says, why do black people vote for Trump if he doesn't like them? Where so outside of CNN or MSNBC, where have you actually heard Trump say that he doesn't like black people? Every place he goes where he stumps in front of black people, he has never said he doesn't like them. He always says, "I love the black people." It comes it comes off weird, but um, he does not dislike black people. That's not at all true. Do you know that he put up a black woman in one of his buildings for free? Do you know that he gave prison reform when he was in office for black people? Do you know he gave a huge amount of subsidies to historically black colleges and universities when he was in office? But he doesn't like black people. Why would someone do that for black people if he doesn't like them? Uh, Sean says Trump free Kodak. Why would he do that if he doesn't like black people? Kodak, is that the rapper Kodak? Uh, I'm not sure what that is. That might. Um, Obi says, Sean, I hope you're being sarcastic. He could have stayed in jail. He doesn't do anything productive. Well, Sean is in Ireland, Obi, so I don't know how much he knows about that guy. I don't even know that much about Kodak. Sneeble says, I saw Joe Biden on Parks and Recreation from a 2011 episode, Night and Day Difference. Even if that was multiple takes, they could not get a single good take if it was today. Obi says his issues are foreign policy, immigration, taxes, no specific order. I kind of agree with those. Yeah. Um, I have to agree with those. He put it in a better way than I did because I said, as far as foreign policy, I was like, people who's not going to get us in new wars and not going to keep giving money to other countries for their proxy wars that we're assisting them in. Like, that's crazy. And immigration, I've already talked about that. Taxes, yes, like tax billionaires. Stop taxing like regular people heavily. And when I say tax them on their capital gains. Don't tax them on their income because a lot of super wealthy people don't show how much money they make through their income. They show it through their capital gains. Tax them on their capital gains. Bonnie says, I'm concerned with the fact that no Democrats were allowed to vote, or for someone else, it was, oh, uh, Kamala is the Democratic candidate for president. That's the exact thing I just said. You know that because this the comments is 5 minutes behind when I'm reading them, but completely agree. Like that was to me was completely anti-democratic. Like he steps down and they just anoint her the front runner instead of letting them have a They were already asking for a primary before Biden stepped down. They was like, no, give us a primary because he doesn't seem able to run another 4 years. And on top of that, he had promised to be a one-term president. Now he's saying he still needs to stay in to protect us against Trump. Like Trump was so evil. But yeah, that was completely anti-democratic to not give us a primary when he stepped down. I'm not a Democrat, but if I were a Democrat, I would be pissed at that. Sean Sean says Kodak Black, no flocking. Sneal says I don't think he should have freed Kodak Black. He assaulted a reporter the second he left. For real? Wait, is Kodak Black the guy with the little tattoo right here, and he looks like buckwheat from all, from the all uh from the old TV show? So now the people I was going to do interviews with are now like, oh, what? Like, nah, y'all should have asked me that before. I'll answer them after I get off the stream. I'm not. They're not going to interrupt me right now. Sean says, "Come on." He said, Mercanoid says, "I saw that he left the building just after getting out and threw rocks and injured a reporter right after leaving." Wait, so the dude was what? What? So he is as retarded as he looks. Then is what you're telling me? This dude left prison and started throwing rocks at reporters. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he locked up on the SA charge, or was that not the case? Sean says also an interview with Aiden Ross, Trump criticized Young Thug being treated unfairly. Another indicator he doesn't dislike black people. You're right, but for a lot of us, those aren't good examples because a lot of black people ourselves we don't like these delinquent rappers because they make other black men look bad. But I get what you're saying, like, but you're absolutely right. He does not dislike black people. Also, that was the only person when ASAP Rocky was locked up in the Netherlands. He actually tweeted out the Netherlands had needs to release ASAP Rocky and worked behind the scenes to get him released out of jail. ASAP Rocky. So and when he left office, he pardoned Lil Wayne. This is not a guy that dislikes black people. Little Rascals. Thank you, Bonnie. I used to love that show when I was little. What was the other one? It was Little Rascals, and then there was the other. It was the other show that was just like Little Rascals. But yeah, Kodak Black looks like an adult thug version of Buckwheat. Mercanoid says Trump also said on the stream that Kanye has a good heart. I don't know about that. Well, yeah, that he doesn't have the best taste in rappers, but all this goes to say that he doesn't dislike black people. I think that should be obvious to all of us, right? Miss Needle said he has the whole rap game on his side. Miss Needle, he really the. I'm gonna tell you right now, the rap community, most of the people in the rap community actually like him. 50 Cent is rocking with him. Only one that wasn't probably rocking with him was J.A.C because he was all on Obama's nuts. But um, yeah, but he has a lot of the rap game on his side to be sure. Like I said, he pardoned Lil Wayne when he left office. So, uh, Miss Nita says that's one way to get votes. True indeed. Like when he left court back in Georgia, this was like early at the beginning of this year. You know, he went through he drove through the hood, and I'm not lying, this was on the news. He drove through the hood, and people was like, yeah, Trump. In the black community, like in the hood. This was in the hood. That's when I knew. That's when I knew. Oh, I said Biden is gonna have a problem. I said anytime a billionaire, 70-something-year-old white man is driving through the hood and people are shouting for him, you, the Democrats are losing the losing the black vote. Obi says freeing rappers is the equivalent of Kamala giving Megan the horse to perform. Both are equally insulting. I do agree with that. The point we were making, Obi, was just that some guy tried to early in the stream. Angel said that he doesn't like black people, and I was like, "There's no evidence that he dislikes black people." Mercano says most Little Rascals were played by little people, and one died during the filming of an episode. I thought they were mostly little kids. If I remember correctly, most of the Little Rascals were actually children, I believe. Creature Hub says, Just a Contrarian, how was your vacation? I haven't had one yet, my friend. People know because when I do, I'm gonna like take plenty. I'm gonna have some footage for you guys to put on here. By the way, I still have to put up. I still need to upload my video of me at Jollibee's here in America because it's the first. This is the first time I went to Jollibee's here in the United States. I'm used to eating at Jollibee's there in the Philippines, so it was funny eating it here, and it was a good experience. So I'm gonna load that pretty soon. Only reason I haven't did so earlier was I was having a problem uploading it from my Google Drive. Missing is his only thing missing is the gang scene, like Crips and Bloods. Maybe he can make some deals with them too. He's not that far from it, Miss D. He's not that far from it, Miss Nita. I swear I could actually see that happening. Like I can see that happening. It will be hilarious though, but I can actually see that happening. So don't think it won't. She says that's hilarious to imagine Trump driving through the hood with his gold chains and grills on, and the sunglasses, looking out a limo. Well, I'll tell you what came close to that. So he showed up this at the sneaker convention. Mind you, I didn't even know that there was a sneaker shoe convention, but there was one. And last year he came there with his own Trump shoes. They were gold. And people was like, "Oh shit, those look." People were like, "Yo, I'm gonna get those." He showed up at the sneaker. So I was like, and most of the sneaker heads at these conventions are either black, Latino, or Asian. So he was around minority people. So people's thinking that he hates minorities. He doesn't. Those are the majority of people that's going to be at the sneaker convention in Philadelphia. Was mostly black, Latino, and Asians. Asians have a are huge. Like people may not be aware. Asians are hugely into like this whole sneaker culture. I'm not. I used to be like long time ago, but I can't afford to be buying like sneakers on top of sneakers anymore. Plus, I think I've grown out of that. But yeah, he rolled up to Sneaker Con and said, "Here's my new sneakers," and they were all gold. Merkino says Trump was good friends with Mike Tyson and Michael Jackson back in the day too. I didn't know that. But like I said, his name used to be used in so many rap songs, and he's even appeared in rap videos. So Creature has Creature Up says hell yeah, looking forward to it. Oh yeah, most definitely. Like because I'm a content creator as opposed to when I used to go on my little trips before I used to start making content. I'm more mindful of that now that I can set up my camera and show off a lot of this stuff. So I definitely will be doing that in the future. Mercano says there's different versions. The original Rascals from the 40s were mostly little people, and one of them drowned during the episode filming. I didn't know that. Bonnie says, my grandfather told me candidates used to stand on platforms and answer constituents' questions, town to town, no hoopla and celebrity endorsements on music. They did. I mean, they still kind of do that now. That's called the town hall meetings. But now the town hall meetings are less common than they used to be. But some candidates still do the town hall platforms. The presidents do it, but they don't do it enough. And Missy says, "Creature, I'm happy to make you laugh." I don't. I can't say that Biden said that. I can't attribute a quote to him if I don't know he said that. What I will say is, for people acting like Trump is the racist, here's the thing. Okay, let's let's take. This is how you. Okay, this is how you do a reductio ab absurdum in philosophy. A reductio ab absurdum means an argument um, where you reduce it to absurdity. So you take your rival's point and you let the consequences follow as they will to show that it leads to either a contradiction or an absurdity. Okay, so let's take the argument that Trump is a racist. All right, he's a racist. In the 4 years that he was in office, what did he do to hurt black people? What I do remember him doing, he was tough on immigration, which helps black people because they often take the jobs of lower income black people. He did prison reform. There's an overwhelming amount of black people still stuck in incarceration. He gave money to HBCUs. There's still a lot of black people who still go to historically black colleges and universities. He pardoned a lot of black uh, uh, black people. And yes, people can say, well, he denied housing to black people when he was a real estate mogul in New York City. Poss- yeah, okay. He did it as a private citizen, though, not as a political leader, not as a president. And to be sure, a lot of that housing he was denying people. Some people have said that that was because he didn't want to deal with that Section 8 stuff. And people will talk about the Central Park Five. That was that was a bad decision on his part. However, that was him as a private citizen writing an editorial in the New York Times. He had he had no influence on the outcome of that situation, though. However, black people love Uncle Joe Biden, right? You know what Uncle Joe Biden did? So Uncle Joe, and he's not my fucking uncle, but Uncle Joe came into office in the Senate working with a white supremacist to prevent busing of black students to white schools. He worked with Strom Thurmond. Strom Thurmond. If you don't know who Strom Thurmond is, look him up. He eulogized a KKK leader, Robert Byrd. He eulogized him and called him a friend and mentor. He he co-authored the 1988 crack law, which stated that which made it a federal law back in 1988 And again, he was a Democrat, not a Republican. I want you to be clear on that. Joe Biden, 1988, authored the crack bill, which made it a federal mandatory sentencing for crack and only crack, no other drug, but only for crack. There would be federal mandatory sentencing for even small possessions of crack cocaine. Did that for nothing else. Didn't do it for heroin. Didn't do it for weed. Didn't do it for MDMA. Didn't do it for PCP. Didn't do it for LSD. Didn't do it for any of these other things. Just crack, because that was what was prevalent within the black community at the time when the when the crack era hit in the 1980s. Oh, and he wasn't done then. Then there was the 1994 crime bill, which locked up tens of thousands of black men. He co-authored that too. And he and the Clintons talked about black people being super predators. But he's the one that's supposed to be the one that loves black people, and Trump is one who hates black people. Yeah, okay. Hope that Kool-Aid tastes well. So anyway, so Obi says, yeah, that's fair. I don't think he likes black people per se. It's just his fan base. He did attribute he did attribute money to HBCU, so that's actually tangible and directly benefited the black community. Yeah, I agree. Miss Nita says, "How only Trump gets his own golden sneakers. He might enter the sneaker game too. He got them all. He got them all. Soon Trump will be on posters selling sneakers. Oh, he definitely will. I have a Trump leather jacket from my grandfather before he passed away. He actually gave it to me like, let me say about 16 years ago, but it still holds up because I haven't worn it that much. And it's good quality because people have tried to say that everything that Trump sells is bad quality. That leather jacket is old as shit and it still holds up well. Like I can still wear it today. And it has a removable lining so I can wear it when it's just breezy outside or when it's actually like chilly cold outside. It's good quality. Miss Neal says maybe his backup plan when all fails is a lucrative industry. Oh, and that's another thing people criticize him about is that he has businesses outside of being a president. Mind you, people forgot that even though he still had his hands in his businesses when he was a president, he gave away all his presidential salary. He donated his presidential salary when he was in office for 4 years. He didn't take it. He gave that away. On top of that, he was not the first real estate mogul president. Guess I've mentioned this before, but if people don't know, guess who was the first real estate mogul president? It was George Washington. The very first president was a real estate mogul. On top of that, he he gained property through basically just taking land after the French and Indian Wars were over. So when people try to talk about the shady dealings of Trump, please, Washington has shady dealings. On top of that, he owned slaves. Not only did he own slaves, there was a law at the time in the 1700s in Pennsylvania that because of like because of the Quakers that that made it a law that you had to release your slaves on working on presidential on excuse me on Pennsylvania land after a certain amount of years. So instead of George Washington releasing his slaves, he just moved them to other he just took those slaves and moved them to other to property on other in other states to restart the clock so he wouldn't have to release those slaves. So people can miss me with talking about Trump being like worrying more about his businesses than running the government or talking about he's a criminal. All presidents have been criminals. That's not new. Miss Needle says Biden sure changed his tune when you look at older videos of him to now. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if that quote is true that Sean mentioned, but to be sure, he's tried to make himself more palatable to the black community, but than he was in the past. But he was definitely the bigger problem than Trump ever was. Merkinoy says, when I was in elementary school, there was a kid whose mom tried running. Keep in mind, during the late 2000s, early 2010s recession, she had no chance and lost a lot of money. Oh, to be sure, you have to be our government is an oligarchy. Like you're not running for office unless you have a considerable income to do so. GJC says, evening, what's up, GJC? Merkinoy says, damn, Joe Biden went full Marcus Garvey. Sneeble says they need to get a poster of Trump dunking dressed as grandma wearing Trump shoes, do a Larry Johnson style ad. Oh, that's so old school. Most people, a lot of people won't even know what you're talking about when you're talking about you're talking about Larry Johnson. I remember those commercials though. They were funny as I don't know what. Well, you won't see Trump dressed up as a woman, but you'll probably see old Mayor Giuliani dressed up as a woman because he did that back in the day. And yes, you can find it online. I'm not making that up. But you can find old Giuliani out there dressed like a woman. Let me put on some more music, guys. The other one just went off. Can you guys hear the music in the background? By the way, I'm just gonna say he gonna win those granny votes too with that. Bonnie says my family was in the French Indian War on the side of the French. Oh, so is that your real name? Your last name Bell? I just assumed that was like just a YouTube nickname, but I didn't think Bell was like your actual last name. I don't know where my family enters the scene. Like I said, I know I can trace my ancestry back to Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson. Um, but I don't know if I've had any family members, either white or black, that fought as early as the French and Indian Wars. TJC says Trump hosted Nick Fuentes at the White House. Did he? I don't even know if he did or not. But even if he did, like I said, um, hosting Nick Fuentes at the White House and actually working with a white supremacist are two different things. Like I said, well, I mean, you weren't in the chat at the time, GJC, but I was mentioning all the things that Biden has done as sort of a reductio ab absurdum to the notion that Trump is a bigger racist than Biden. And like I said, Biden has done more racist things, even though black people love him, than Trump has ever done. Like I said, he eulogized a KKK leader and called him his friend and mentor, Robert C. Byrd. He worked with Strom Thurmond to prevent busing of black students to white schools. He he co-authored the 1988 crack bill. He co-authored the 1994 crime bill. So, Messenger says, "Don't put the pictures in our heads." Sneeble says, "Back in the days when when basketball players could wear a dress and Skizzles wouldn't say it's a shaming ritual." Yeah, because nowadays if Larry Johnson did that, they would say that he's being buck broken. But back then, like no one took it seriously like that. You said no music, dead silence. Okay, so I'm playing lo-fi music. I try not to play it too loud because because even though this music is AI generated, it's still copyrighted. So I don't receive copyright strikes for it, but it will show like in my analytics that this is copyrighted music. But the authors do give permission for content creators to use it. So I'm gonna be quiet so you guys can hear it. So maybe you can hear that. So you said I can. You said you can hear it now, Miss Needle. He said, "Wave that leafy thing on the wall around as a fan that saves electricity and creates a very Egyptian feel." Nah, 'cause when you fan yourself, it actually creates more heat because you're creating like you're giving off heat when you're waving off the fan. I better not do that because someone's gonna say it's something stupid. But I actually have like an electric fan right beside me. I just don't play it right now because it interferes with the sound on the screen. Because I think you remember the day when I was playing the fan because the um the AC wasn't working. We had to have it fixed, and before it stopped working, it was actually kicking off heat instead of air. Like it switched off the air and was kicking out heat. Then the next day, it just completely stopped working, and that was when we had that heat wave a week ago. So it was really uncomfortable. So that's when I had the fan on during my live stream, but I try not to do that during a live stream because it's really bad. I mean, the sound is really bad. But anyway, so getting back to topics, guys. So a lot of us, I think, are in agreement. We're talking about like foreign policy, immigration, taxes. The fact that a lot of us find it hard to take care of our living expenses. Mercanoy says, I love how whenever someone gives Joe Biden an even slightly challenging claim, he automatically defaults to, what are you talking about? Get out of here, with a little grin on his face. I'll tell you what, yo. So, yeah, Charlemagne the God gave him a alley oop, Mercanoy, and he couldn't even take the alley oop. Like, Charlemagne was like, hey, man, we love to have you here. We want to, be able to ask you some questions, so everyone can see why they should vote for you. That was an alley oop. Joe Biden. I'm not even a talented politician by no means, but I'd have been like, I'd be like, man, I'd have been like, I'd have been like, oh yeah, I look forward to coming there. I'll look forward to answering everyone's questions so they can see why I'm the right candidate for them. It was an alley oop. He instead, what he say? Well, I'll tell you what, Charlemagne. If they have trouble deciding who to vote for, they ain't black. Why did he say that? It was an alley oop. Like he gave him like a straight. He just gave him a nice little pass. All he had to do was throw it in the just throw the jumper. That's all he had to do. The basket was right there. Just put it in the hoop. No, he fumbles the ball. Said, if you don't know who to, if you still can't decide who to vote for, you ain't black. Miss Neal says Mercanoy, they probably gave him some meds phrases to say. Mercanoy says, when did Charlamagne interview Joe Biden? Was he on the Breakfast Club, like the infamous one with Kamala? Yeah, he was on the Breakfast Club. This this was um this was back in 2020, and it's gone in infamy since. And I remember talking about it, and my father was like, "Well, who you gonna vote for then, Trump?" And at the time, like I was brainwashed, like a lot of people, into thinking Trump was evil, until like I started looking at stuff for myself. And I was like, well, no. I was like, there's other people to vote for, but besides either of them. He was like, man, he said, you need to be more realistic. Ain't nobody trying to really vote for Bernie Sanders. And this is why I don't listen to my father on most things. Like, he, that's a whole different topic. But I was like, yeah, okay, whatever you say, man. I was like, because he was like, because even he was like, you need to vote for Uncle Joe Biden. I'm like, he's your motherfucking uncle, not mine. So fuck. Unfortunately, I voted for that guy. and I regret it. But I won't be making those mistakes again. Treva Main says, "Yup." Merknoy says that Kamala Breakfast Club Fox uses like cancel culture, uses celebrities, old YouTube videos and tweets. It's merited. They all do the same thing. They all like take little, take things that each other has done and use it against each other. That's the nature of that's the nature of electoral politics, and it turns a lot of people off. But it works, unfortunately, because if it didn't work, people wouldn't be doing it. Hold on, guys. I gotta grab some water. My voice. Uh, Let me turn this music up just slightly a bit. Oh, Trusty here. Bonnie says I didn't vote. I was upset over Bernie, but when Trump won, I got out my popcorn. Right. So I was pissed about Bernie too. I was madder after the fact when I found out just how much the DNC did to stop him from winning. Guys, it's getting hot in here. I'm trying not to strip. But anyway, yeah, they did Bernie so dirty, and when it came out, all these emails and stuff where they said they were going to do anything to stop Bernie from winning. That even if he won all the delegates, they were going to still refuse to make him the front runner. I was like, wow, that's messed up. So they're saying even if he won all the delegates, they would still prevent him from being the front runner. After that in 2016, I don't know why I voted for Biden, but again, I've made political mistakes. I won't be making those again. I was so turned off by 2020. That's when I really became politically apathetic. And that really didn't change for me until last year. Last year was when I was like, you know what? I'm just going to vote for Trump. Let's see what he can offer. I was like, because in the years he was in office, things were not so bad before the pandemic hit. And that wasn't his fault. That was another country's fault, whom we shall not mention. Mercury says, to be fair, the Breakfast Club are awful interviewers, even with my bias to Hot 97 since I'm East Coast. I mean, yeah, I like Hot 97 better than, what's the station Breakfast Club is on? 10, I can't remember. But yeah, Hot 97 is better. But I think I think the Breakfast Club, at least back then, was a more entertaining radio show than the one with I forgot who the radio show is on Hot 97 that's the rival of the Breakfast Club. But I think the at least in the morning, I think the Breakfast Club was the 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 more important morning show between them and Hot 97. Sean says, "What do you think of Whoopi Goldberg and the View Ladies?" I think they're a bunch of cackling hens. Um, I don't know how their opinions started being taken seriously within the political sphere, but people in political news actually take what they say seriously. Probably because they speak for a lot of um, middle age, middle class women. But as a as a as a straight black man, I could care less what Whoopi Goldberg and the rest of them think. Like they have no relevancy to me. Like their opinions just hold no weight, and then they just sound very stupid at oftentimes, and I don't like I don't like most of the people on the show. like Sunny, whatever her name is, and the chick who's a Republican in name only, the Latina woman. They kicked off the daughter of um, um, what's the senator who died. They kicked his daughter off because they didn't like her opinions. So yeah, they do kind of bring up a lot of propaganda sometimes. Morgan always says if you do any research on Ted Danson and Whoopi, then you can't even look at her without feeling some type of negative way about her. Oh, I know what you're talking about when she asked, because when he wore blackface and then it came out, yeah, back in the 90s for people who don't know. So Ted Danson was like the famous actor from Cheers, and he's been on a lot of movies since then, like Three Men and a Baby and some other things. And there was this infamous picture when they were dating. And who the f would want to date Whoopi Goldberg? Ew. Even when she was younger, she was ugly. And I know because I've watched movies of her back in the '80s, early '80s. Not just Color Purple, but some other movies like Jumping Jack Flash and stuff like that. She was never attractive. But anyway, she was dating Ted Danson, and for some, she started off as a stand-up comedian. So for whatever reason, she thought it was funny to have Ted Danson do blackface, and all these people were mad at Ted Danson for doing blackface till it came out that Whoopi Goldberg actually asked him to do it. So on top of that, the bitch is like in her like 60s, damn near 70s, still single, talking about she's looking for a good man to take care of her. You're like you're a grandmother. You missed your chance. um, Give me a second, guys. I'm just checking messages. I got messages from the wife. I got messages from people who I was supposed to be interviewing, um, including from Kristen Mace. She wants to come back on the channel. What do I think about Candace Owens? So when I first heard about her, like I had knee jerk reactions to her because I was a progressive at the time, and I just thought she was like a self hating black person. And I was like, so all the people I've heard the worst things about as a progressive, I decided let me actually look into what these people say and think on their own terms and see if they're really that bad. I don't agree with everything Candace Owens says, but she's not as irrational as people on the left try to make her. When I've listened to her, I I started watching a few of her shows on YouTube when she was still under the Daily Wire. I don't agree with her views on Israel and Jewish people. I think she does come off as anti-Semitic sometimes. But other than that, I agree with a lot of the stuff she says, especially when it comes to like talking about like traditional values and stuff like that. So even though I don't agree with her on everything, I don't find her completely irrational. Same thing with Thomas Sowell. Like people used to talk about him so poorly, and I started listening to him. I'm like, this is a really educated dude. Like he really knows his stuff. And there's people on the left who actually admire him too, like people like Steven Pinker. So I'm like, if Steven Pinker, who's considered like a strong voice on the left, like someone like Thomas Sowell, I should look into it. Um, Mercano says, have you seen the post apocalyptic buddy cop movie with Whoopi that takes place in a dinosaur and people in the dinosaur and people world, it's kind of like that Will Smith show, but Bright, but for kids. I haven't heard of it. Sean says, "What about AOC?" AOC, so that's it's almost the opposite. So I started off loving her, and now I don't like her at all. Like I don't think I think she's become less progressive as she's been in office because she's looking to make power moves, which I understand that, but she's been less progressive than she started off as being, and I don't agree with a lot of her positions anymore. So I actually don't like her as much as I did 6 years ago or whenever. And if she, I'm thinking she at one point she's going to try to run for office. I'm not voting for her, but I can see her possibly running for office in 4 years in 2028. I won't be voting for her. Um, Mercanoid says, I don't know anything about Candace Owens. How can you be on the Daily Wire and be even slightly anti-Semitic? I don't know, dude, but that was one of the big. That was what finally pushed her out of the Daily Wire, like, cause she was bumping heads with people like um, what's the guy's name? Um, I can't remember, but yeah, she's been kind of anti-Semitic. So it was weird to me that she was on the Daily Wire. Like she had that whole thing she did with Kanye, and then when it came to the whole the the, the Israeli versus the versus those terrorists in the Gaza Strip, like I didn't support her positions. I for my own, and people can are free to disagree with me, but I stood with Israel on that matter. But yeah, some of the stuff she was saying was at least not all of it was anti-Semitic, but it was definitely anti-Israel, and she started clashing heads with people in the Daily Wire, which is how she eventually got pushed out. Sean says, "Is ALC considered black?" No, she's Puerto Rican. Puerto Ricans have a mixed ancestry. They're Taino natives, like so they're a mixture of the Taino people who originally inhabited Puerto Rico, as well as the Spanish people who came there since Columbus wiped out the wiped out the Taino people and the Arawak people um, and the Carib people. These were all native indigenous people that lived on those islands: the Taino, the Arawak, the Caribs. Um, and then there was a sizable black population too brought over there as as slaves, some as servants. So the Puerto Ricans has always been sort of a mixture of those three peoples of indigenous people, Spaniards, and black people. But for the most part, well, so if you live like in the New York tri-state area, Puerto Ricans are like can sometimes be considered black, but outside of the New York tri-state area, we wouldn't consider them black. We consider them Latino or Afro Latino. Um, Bonnie says every celebrity I used to watch on TV or movies has currently been an utter disappointment. Somehow um, I feel their opinion should wait, so somehow okay, I'm sorry. Somehow they feel their opinion should affect my life and matter to me. Here, I get the sentiment. Um, I agree, guys. Has there been some other issues we haven't covered? Like, so here's another one. So Do you guys know like the TSA has like this new law in effect for like putting people on a domestic terror watch list when they fly? It has nothing to do, and they really don't release what would make you be put into consideration for this watch list. I think it's something called something cloud over the skies or something. Is a very Orwellian thing that worries me. That this administration has been so eager to try to roll out very authoritarian type measures, like when they were going to try to instill 2 years ago the misinformation. Uh, they wanted to have under Homeland Security a whole department, well, a whole agency dealing with misinformation, and I'm like, that sounds so much 1984 Orwell type stuff. I'm glad it got knocked down by Congress. And then, of course, the Biden administration tried to say, "Oh, people just misunderstood it because of such and such." But it was really creepy that they would have started some sort of agency on misinformation, saying what is and what isn't accurate information based on their own political considerations. I can't find what it is that the TSA started, but it's something dealing with called cloud of the skies, cloud over the skies, or something like that. It sounds it sounds very Orwellian. And like I said, it was basically a sort of domestic terror watch list they can put you on for completely anonymous reasons. Like we're not privy to what would designate someone to be on this watch list. But they recently put Tulsi Gabbard on it. Tulsi Gabbard was put on this domestic terror watch list. That is very, that is pretty terrifying because if you can put a high profile person like a fucking U.S. congressman on a domestic terror watch list who's also a decorated veteran and again a sitting congresswoman, then and someone who ran for president, then what do you think they're gonna do to regular people? I think it's called the Safer Skies Act. Mercano says the TSA profiles. I never have done any substances. I have no criminal history, but I'm guessing because I'm a younger man with long hair and a Grateful Dead shirt, they wiped all my stuff down checking. Yeah, like so I was worried when I started traveling because my name is Aman, and I'm like, all right, so I have a Muslim last name. I mean, a Muslim first name, and I so I was worried about that. But TS, I've for my own, I will say honestly, I've not had any problems with TSA flying in the last 7 years, luckily, and I thought I did. I thought I would, but I haven't had any problems with TSA. But this Safer Skies Act or whatever it's called, I'm not feeling it. Um, Bonnie says I heard about the upcoming flight list. However, TSA should have been a forewarning when it start. Should have given a forewarning when it started. I agree. I've only heard about it, like I said, because of hearing like a few days ago that Tulsi Gabbard was put on this domestic this domestic terror watch list, and again, we don't know why. But the fact, like I said, they put a woman on the domestic terror watch list, who's a U.S. congressman, like a U.S. congresswoman, ran for presidential office as a decorated uh, military veteran. That does not sound like the person who should be on a domestic terror watch list unless they know something we don't. And let's be honest, the TSA probably doesn't. But that is worrying, guys. And again, this is coming from the administration that says they want to protect democracy from Trump and fascists. But they've done the most anti-democratic things within the last 4 years. Like I said, they wanted to start a misinformation agency back during the pandemic. They stopped. They demanded that Facebook and Google not allow people to share certain opinions about the pandemic, which is why people were getting shadow banned. They were often being thrown in Facebook jail or having their posts removed, getting demonetized because literally the federal government was telling these private social media companies what they should be allowing people to say or not share on their platforms. That's very anti-democratic. The whole misinformation thing's anti-democratic. The president stepping down from the election and them anointing someone to be the front runner in his place instead of allowing Democratic voters to primary their their preferred candidate to be front runner. That's anti-democratic. The fact that they won a court case about 8 years ago saying that the Democratic National Committee is a corporation and therefore they can choose whom they want to be their front runner regardless of whom the voters want, and won the court case as such is anti-democratic because this was in answer to what they did to Bernie. I don't trust them. I don't trust them. So as much as they talk about the right being the political right being authoritarian and on the fringes of democracy and being proto-fascist, they're very comfortable with authoritarian type government and being very paternalistic. But guys, um, that's all I have to say. Like I said, unless you guys have anything else to add to it, I'm not gonna hold you. Okay. Um, we can bring up some more stuff if if you guys can think of it. But those exhaust the issues that I'm most concerned with this coming election. That and being able to travel and get away from here. And guys, can you hear the lo-fi music now? I did turn it up, but I don't want it to be too loud. Sneeble Mess says this country's always had corruption. Yeah, I mean, corruption is not unique to America, though. Every country I've visited has had their problems with it. Politics, corruption goes hand in hand with politics because every every sort of industry has attracts certain personality types. The people who crave power and influence are the people who gravitate to politics. So it's going to attract people who naturally are going to be corruptible. Sneeble Master says the internet brings the stuff forward. That's what caused the drop in Patriots. Um, I don't know. The drop in Patriots. I think there's still a lot of patriotic people out there. The problem is people. There's so much anti-American sentiment within America that patriots are now labeled as being jingoistic or nationalist. And I'm not a nationalistic person nor a jingoist, but I do consider myself a patriot. And now it's easy to sneer at being patriotic. But I can tell you what, look. So I live in this suburbs of Baltimore, and in my grandmother's neighborhood, this is an older neighborhood. Like most of the people here are in their middle years or their elder years, and they're all homeowners. And when I run every day around here, I can't go on one block where there's not an American flag. When you have skin in the game, you value your community, you value your country. Too many people don't have skin in the game. This is why a lot of countries make it mandatory for people to do like 2 years of either military or community service to install to excuse me to instill a sense of of citizenship into these people. Bonnie says, "Thank you for the conversation. I'm definitely currently selling my stuff and getting out. I don't blame you." Merkinoy says, "That's true. People in the 80s had an idea about the CIA if you were within the groups that were in the know. Now you can see everything." And and just as a tangent, our intelligence agency is out of whack. We have way too much intelligence agencies for them not to know what the fuck is going on. Like we have 19 what is it? I think we have like 18 or 19 intelligence agencies now between like CIA, DSS, FBI, DIA, NSA, um, all the different military intelligence agencies, and so on. Like we have way too many intelligence agencies for us to have all this miscommunication on what's going on in the world and in the country. We could reduce like those what 18 to 19 agencies down to like six or five or six of them. There's no way we need like almost 20 agencies. That's just way too damn many, especially when there's so much overlap between the stuff that the sort of intelligence that they gather and the other covert things they do. But I don't want to get. I'm not shooting above my pay grade because I'm not trying to anger the wrong people. Besides that, hey, they can recruit me. I'm still in shape. I'm joking, but in all seriousness, again, there's a lot of issues facing us this current election. Now, I'm not gonna say this is the most important election ever because I'm so tired of Democrats saying it. They've been literally saying that since the '80s. This is the most important election ever. So we need you guys to vote. They literally say that every presidential election. If you don't believe me, just look at it on the news. Like look at old footage. They've Democrats have used scaremongering tactics to scare black people and scare other minority groups into voting for them for the last 40 plus years and haven't given much to these groups in return for their votes, which is why they take the black vote and the minority vote for granted because they think that we're just going to vote for them regardless as a symbolic victory. Bonnie says all agencies knows what's going on. I wish they, to be honest, I wish they actually did, but I don't really think they do. They don't like to share. They don't like to share intelligence amongst each other because it becomes a dick measuring contest of who's the most effective agency. Um, this is why back when they instilled the Patriot Act, they created a new office that reports directly to the president. Um, because formerly it was pretty much the CIA that reported directly to him. They were supposed to gather the evidence from the other agencies, but like I said, they withhold information from each other, and they don't always get everything right. Like sometimes they're more interested in gathering intelligence than making sure that the intelligence is accurate. There are fact checkers they have, but not all of them are as good as others within certain agencies. I think some agencies are better at fact checking than other agencies. But again, I'm not going to shoot above my pay grade with that one. We all remember the weapons of mass destruction under President Bush, right? Mercanoid says, as far as actually trying to shake things up and not the same old, JFK is the only I really see being different. Yes, but the problem is, him trying to say he's anti-establishment. Like, dude, your whole family has been involved in government since the '60s. You can't. There's no one more establishment than the Kennedys. But to run as the anti-establishment candidate is just funny because his family has been a political dynasty since the '60s. Um, Plus, he has some very so. Um, the last what's it called? Last week tonight with John Oliver, they did a good coverage of JFK Jr. and it shows why he would be a problematic candidate. However, I'm not going to begrudge anyone who decides to choose JFK over either Trump or over Biden. He's a viable choice. Like and I've said this weeks and weeks ago that he could be the dark horse. He can be the dark horse candidate in this election. Like I said, he could be the Ross Perot of our era. Because like I said, people forget when people always say, "Well, third party candidates don't have a shot in winning." People forget Ross Perot when he first ran in 1992. He was in the polls. In the polls, he was beating both Bush and Clinton. Bush Senior, both Bush Senior and Clinton, he was beating them in the polls. What messed him up was he then dropped out. And he dropped out you know, before the election was over. Bonnie says the Kennedys go back to monarchies. Yeah, it's like before they were even in office, like his RFK Senior and JFK Senior, their father, old Joe Kennedy, made his made his money, you know, bootlegging, bootlegging. I'm sorry. Uh, Mercanoy says, I think Ross Perot was forced to drop out. They were both too high profile to let him jeopardize their campaign. No, I don't think he was forced to. He did that on his own, which was kind of shocking. He may have had some other reasons that they didn't disclose, but he came to run again back in 1996. But by that time, people didn't take him as seriously because they thought he was not. They thought his heart wasn't really in it because he dropped out the first time in 1992. But he ran in '92 and in '96, and he still caught a huge amount of votes in both times. But like I said, he had a chance to win in '92 if he didn't drop out. And unlike today, where they denied JFK Jr. the chance to being on the debate stage with Trump and Biden, Ross Perot was allowed to do a debate with Clinton and Bush, and a lot of people thought that he won that debate. So I don't know. Like a friend of mine and I were saying a few weeks ago, we were saying when Biden had dropped out of the race, I was like, if the Democrats really wanted a chance to beat Trump, they should have picked Bernie to run in his place. Do you know how do you know how much that would have electrified the Democratic base? Like there would have been a lot of the centrist Democrats who would have been pissed that Bernie was replacing Biden, but it doesn't even matter. It would electric the Democratic base has moved farther left than it was 8 years ago. So it would have electrified their base if they said, "All right, well, we need someone who's going to energize our base here. Who can we pick?" They was like, "Well, Kamala, no, she kind of failed in her own presidential run in 2020. We need someone who's more snazzy." And if they said, "Hey, Bernie, what's up?" I would have been excited. I would have, to be honest, I probably would have jumped ship. I probably would have jumped ship if they decided to run with Bernie and say, "Hey, we're gonna make Bernie our front runner." I would have jumped ship. Bonnie says, "Yo, yeah, I remember Ross Perot. Yep, like he was a Texas oil billionaire, I believe." Sneeble says lesbians still haven't scraped Bernie off their Priuses. That shows how loved he is. Nah, I don't know. It's the lesbians because they tried to say that all like Bernie. Because remember they tried to label him Bernie Bros. Because they tried to do a divide and conquer between the progressives. They tried to say that they tried to claim that Bernie was sexist and that he told Elizabeth Warren to step down, and he did not. But they tried to divide the progressives. So they had all the women supporting Elizabeth Warren, and then they tried to say all the Bernie Bros were for Bernie. And that wasn't really true. He excited people of all races, genders, and religious affiliations. But it's definitely a lot of leftists that still have Bernie stickers on this on their car. I can't say lesbians, but because I think they were probably more likely to go with Elizabeth Warren. But anyway, guys, I think that's it. Um, I just want to kind of get the feel for where people was thinking, like what were their issues that's driving them either to the polls this November or making them say, "I'm just going to sit this out on the couch this November." Because either way, I completely understand. Because until last year, I was going to sit it out on the couch too. So I will not begrudge anyone who says I'm sitting this out. I just wondered what the issues were um, that were animating uh, um, a lot of people's thoughts on what's going on right now, especially since we have endless election coverage, right? Bonnie says, I still see the Bernie stickers. I was pissed off at what the DNC and Hillary did and the way I was voting for her. Yeah, unfortunately, Bonnie, I voted for her. I still feel bad about it. The only reason I did was because Bernie is such a good soldier that he said, guys, go vote for her. He was such a good soldier both times in 2016 and 2020 when they pushed him out. He was such he and he's not even a Democrat. He's an independent. But when he ran as a Democrat, he was a good soldier. When they pushed him out, he was like, "All right, well, I'll support this person, but they have to pick up some of my campaign. They have to they're going to have to adopt some of my campaign promises in their platform. And so when Biden pretended he was for some of these Bernie policies, I backed Biden. And in 2016, when Hillary claimed she was going to back some of these campaign promises of Bernie, I voted for her. But never again, never again. The only way I'm voting again for one of them is if it's Bernie. And at his age, he would be too old in 2028. So, and I'm definitely not voting, and I'm definitely not sold on the Timu version of Bernie Sanders, which is Tim Walz. He's the T, he's the Wish or Timu version of Tim Walz. I mean of Bernie Sanders. Jennifer says, "Yo, contrarian, what issue are you interested in being discussed in the next debate?" Um, I think I think Trump should go at so I think Trump should question Kamala Harris' uh, legal career as far as her making it all about being black people should vote for her and bringing up her legal career, how she's basically hurt black people throughout her whole legal career. Um, he should go after the fact that she has, like, they talk about his personal failings as far as things that he's done, like with Stormy Daniels, stuff like that. But she's well known to have had affairs with like Willie Brown and other people, married men. So I hope Trump hits her hard in the debate, talking about her own personal failings. Since they always want to talk about his, let's talk about hers. She wants to run as the first black woman, yada yada yada. Okay, so let's bring up how she's treated black people in her legal and political career. Um, let's talk about the Biden administration's handling of immigration versus Trump's handling of immigration. Um, let's talk about foreign policy. That we didn't have any new wars under Trump. We can talk about their handling of foreign policy. Those are things I hope they address in the debate. And this time, I hope they include RFK Jr. in it as well. Mercanoy says, I think Trump should just make fun of Kamala for 2 hours. That's probably what he's going to do, to be honest. To be honest, that's probably what he's going to do. But he knows, but he can, he's a better debater than what people think. Like, he'll be able to bring up those sort of topics that will be very damaging for her. He should also bring up the fact that she was just basically anointed by the DNC without allowing the voters to pick whom they wanted to be their front runner. That should be brought up in the debate as well. Mercanoy says, I'm not even a Trump or Kamala supporter, but Trump and Kamala debating is going to have some funny moments. Oh, to be sure. Like I said, it'll be even funny if they bring up RFK Jr. because since he has that spasmodic, uh, I forgot what the speech disorder is called. It's called spasmodic dysphonia or something like that. So that should be brought up. And Miss Needle, I'm gonna hit you up after I get off here so we can discuss those future things I was talking about earlier. But yeah, it's called this spasmodic dysphonia. I got that right. I know my stuff, guys. But all right. So I'm gone. If there's any other topics that if there was any other issues that we haven't talked about that should be that are animating you guys to go to the polls or to stay away from the polls, please leave in the comments so we can all see it and I'll definitely reply. Uh, Mercanoy says I've seen a lot of people claim RFK as some kind of art, some kind of soy boy, whatever that means. I I don't know why they claim that. He's the only presidential candidate who's ripped. Do you know this guy? Like this guy does. He he's a weightlifter. Like he weight trains regularly in the gym. He does his intermittent fasting. Like this dude is ripped. He is definitely not a soy boy. I don't know who's claiming that, but he's not. He's not. He's definitely not. Like RFK looks like someone who will actually punch someone. Bonnie says, I'm voting this election because I can't sit this one out. I'm concerned about our future and mostly the children. That's fair. What I will say is, I think it's more important for people to be politically active in local and midterm elections because those are the elections that actually have the most direct impact on your lives. The presidential elections are the most inconsequential because it's not a direct vote, it's an electoral vote. So the funny thing is when people talk about a third party vote as a wasted vote, not really, because when you look at the electoral vote, if you don't vote the way the majority of people are going to vote in your state, then you could you could also consider that a wasted vote. But no one says that's a wasted vote. But somehow people say that a third vote is a wasted vote. It really isn't. So like I live in Maryland. Maryland is a blue state, so I already know that I voting for Trump is not gonna is not gonna be enough of my votes for him to win Maryland because it's because there's only two states in the entire union that doesn't have winner takes all when it comes to the electoral votes. In almost in 48 out of the 50 states, whoever wins the popular vote gets all the electoral votes for that state. But that's not the case in Maine and in Nevada, I think. But you could argue that it would be that I'm basically wasting my vote if I vote for anyone who is if I don't vote for Kamala because in Maryland it's a blue state, so they're gonna vote for her. But I don't care. Like I'm still gonna vote my person, my conscience, and that's not a voting your conscience is not a wasted vote, even if you know that's not gonna be the outcome of your state. So, all right, guys, but that's all I had to say about that. But please be sure to give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share. You can share the video. You can hit the bell for notifications for when I'm about to upload a new video. And if if like I said, you want to leave a comment, go ahead and do so because I will check them and I reply to them. Um, some people might do this after they see this on replay, so that's fine. But everyone have a good night or good morning or good afternoon, wherever part of the world you're in. But take care, guys, and thank you.